For me, one of the most important points ever on which, let's say, our entire path is based. I mean, so many things make up the foundation of our path, but it's important. This point is important. It's kind of mysterious, actually. It's not that obvious to understand it completely. It's not that easy. But at the same time, it's something that if it's lacking, everything else falls apart. And it's our free will. On one side, we could say that if everything is interdependent, and so also our free will is interdependent, so do I really choose, or are my choices the consequences of of previous interactions? Am I really free to make choices or not? And we could spend days talking about this. But that's not the point. Let's start from the assumption that we're free, that we have this free will. And I believe we do. I'm convinced that our free will is extremely small. This range of actions on which we can actually make the decision is very small. Obviously, we're influenced strongly we're conditioned by all of our predispositions of the past, our culture, our body, those around us, an infinite number of things. We're actually conditioned in this present moment from the people that we deal with and the physical state of our body in this actual moment. That conditions are the perception of reality, our worldview, etc. So, do we have a possibility to choose that is not conditioned by anything totally free? At that point, I'd say no. But within this, we can say this conditioned existence, the fact that nothing, absolutely nothing, exists independently and independently from the rest and autonomously. Everything exists in a reciprocal dependence and interdependence, everything that it comes into contact with. And a point to reflect about that I said it was kind of a mystery is that within this, how does the consciousness work? How does the mind work that chooses, that says, yes, no, I go, I don't go, I do, I don't do, etc. How is that? How does it work? But let's start from the assumption that, yes, we have this freedom. And it's this freedom of choice, even if it's very, very small, that allows us to transform ourselves in one way or another. Because otherwise, it wouldn't make any, it would be useless to put effort into something, to dedicate ourselves to something, if we're nothing other than biological robots. I mean, what would be the difference between a living being and a robot? Mostly, what could we say? The fact that robots follow exactly a process that is pre-established, that is programmed, and we have a so-called consciousness. Now, there's a whole discussion if artificial intelligence can be seen as a kind of consciousness. I'd say that but when we talk about consciousness, we need to have senses, etc. If we want to get into all of that, we could talk about that more deeply. But the point is, in this very small space of freedom that we have, we're able to change the world. We're able to change ourselves and to transform the world in which we live. Because we let's say we find ourselves in front of a situation, in front of faced with a person, and the situation that we're living, we're not living it well. We There's the malaise, whatever it is. We have this tendency to want to react with aggression. We have this predisposition to do so, but within this, there's that small possibility of saying, no, I'm not going to react like this. I'm not going to say that thing. I'm not going to follow that wave of thought, because we have different waves of thoughts and feelings that come, and we're not made we're not so coherent, let's say. We have various inner contradictions, and within that, that's where we can choose. Should I follow this wave or that wave? We have this freedom. And it's in those small moments. Those small moments change our lives. Those are the small moments that really make the difference. And here there's a fundamental point. There are two ways to live our freedom. One way, first way, is where we act. We choose as a reaction to what we live. So I do this because that happened, or I say this because you said that. We react to what comes. And in this way of reaction, let's say, life goes on. So we live a kind of a result of the world around us, and we act, even if within our freedom and with awareness, but as a reaction to what happens. And it's important to see that this dynamic happens in very, very small daily things. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about our way of interacting with others, the choices that we make. We're talking about our daily life. The other way is where I choose where I want to go, who I want to be. I set a direction for myself. And in front of that direction, I live the present moment as a cause of the future that I want to live. I'm no longer reacting, but I'm acting with awareness based on where I want to go, who I want to be. If we follow the metaphor of the path, in that first case, I'm walking and I go where the path is easier, there's less of an incline, it's protected by the wind, someone's coming that I don't like, I take another road. We try somehow to direct our path not based on where we want to get, but based on the reactions of what we meet along the path. And the second way, I say, I want to get there. And I just start walking. I walk. There'll be moments where next to me there's someone walking at my side. Maybe I don't like that person, so I need to learn how to keep my path, keep my way independently. And sometimes where my path is very, very steep, and I see another path that's not as steep, but I stay on my way. So this is the difference. In other words, we could say it's the fact that in that first case, we transform, we shape ourselves and the society in which we live, both without any kind of awareness. If we look at history, what's the tendency of history to evolve or to repeat itself? In your opinion? For me, the great evolution, of humankind would be like the museum of hate. We put it in a museum because there was once this horrible thing, but it's in the museum now. It doesn't exist anymore. Or the museum of war. This would be a great evolution for mankind. But when we look back, at least to me, it seems like our tendency is just to repeat the same dynamics. Our tendency is to repeat. And not just as a society and history, but if we look at our own lives, if we allow ourselves to be overwhelmed and we allow ourselves to react, our tendency would be to repeat the same dynamics over and over again. The years go by. Situations are different, the places are different, and here we are, just boring as ever, repeating the same thing. I don't know if I'm explaining myself well. Okay. The alternative is saying, no, I want to be this, I want to go there. Obviously, to have this desire, to develop this kind of desire, to be able to develop this kind of desire, the first thing, we need to be able to know it. We need to be able to imagine it. To come into contact with that. It's not possible to desire something that we don't know, that one is not able to imagine at least. This is the first step when we talk about the importance of faith. The faith is not understood as a believing in something mystical that is unexplainable. No, faith is believing in something. I believe in water and I go for water when I'm thirsty. I believe in something. I have faith in a state of peace. I have faith in love, for example. But to have faith is believing that something is possible and understanding, knowing its qualities. The first thing that should be done here is to allow ourselves to dream, allow ourselves to imagine, where do I want to go? What kind of person do I want to be? What kind of society do I want to live in? What kind of world do I want to live in? And looking at ourselves, it's the same for ourselves. That's why in Buddhist teachings, the dream can be summarized in the word Buddha. That's the dream. Immolate the so-called mental defilements and develop one's own resources and qualities to their maximum potential so that we're able to help others do the same. This is our objective. Once we have an objective, I mean, it's important that everyone adapts it to himself, because as long as faith is something that we're repeating because someone told us, yes, I want to become a Buddha because I've been told that because I'm Buddhist and I've been told that that's what I want. No, once it becomes something that I really want beyond any other thing, that's when it starts to work. That faith is what naturally, once it's deeply developed, that becomes sincere and deep, then it starts. Then the aspiration, desire arises, because when I believe in something and I allow myself to see it, consequently, I say, I want that. Let's imagine, for example, peace in ourselves and also with others. If we're really able to imagine it well, I can't see anyone that wouldn't say, I want it. But the problem is when one doesn't allow himself to see it, One says it's not even possible. One doesn't really believe in it. And as long as one doesn't believe in something, they can't want it. So, as a consequence of faith, there's a desire. If we see that we don't put enough effort into something, it's because we don't have enough faith. If we don't have enough desire for something, how can we develop faith? Advertising. I don't know. Has it ever happened that you've seen an ad for something and then wanting that thing? Right? You see, even in an armed conflict. Yesterday, I was reading that there's a whole movement. Without getting into details, they want to invest billions of dollars for um, uh, misinformation, because it's a real weapon, misinformation. Even in a conflict at home, I don't know if you've ever tried to spread misinformation, where you try to plant the seed of where you create some kind of problem, misinformation. Oh, I'm not going to say this because I don't want them to know that, etc., etc. It happens at home. It happens at work. I mean, we're quite used to this dynamic. This means that the information that we receive is what works inside, and pushes us to believe in something or not to believe in something. So, what's the function of advertising? To let it to introduce us to something, to believe in something and want something. So when you don't want something enough, it's because you don't really believe in that thing enough. You don't believe in the qualities or functions. Don't believe in the possibility of having it, or my own ability of being able to reach that or have that thing. Because when I believe in the qualities of something, when I think that it is possible and important, and I believe that I can do it, as the natural consequence it is wanting. And here there's an important point that I remember a phrase of a master who said, imagine a gardener. And the greatest desire of the gardener is to see his garden full of flowers. But if we want a garden full of flowers, where should we put our energy? In the flowers, or in preparing the soil, in fertilizing, in watering with constancy? Because if one fixates on the flowers, they'll never come out. One needs to put energy in all the rest. So, similarly, it's like saying we don't need to put energy into desire or aspiration. We need to put energy in the causes of desire. If the causes are done correctly, then naturally desire arises. Once that desire arises naturally and is stronger, what's the consequence of desire, of aspiration, which is the more correct term in this case, but desire, we understand it more easily. So what's the consequence of strong desire? Have you ever had strong desire for something and you just stay immobile in front of that thing? Or if you felt passion, you have a strong desire for something, does the energy follow, go in that direction? Yes. Are we there weighing our efforts? No. It becomes a priority. One does everything to get there, to reach that thing. And this is called enthusiastic effort. putting energy into something that is positive but not easy. I don't know if you've ever said, oh, to yourself that you should have more effort or put in more effort. I mean, I've said it to myself. Oh, here I need more effort. I don't have enough effort. I don't know if you've ever, how can I say, you've ever criticized yourself for your lack of constancy, lack of constant effort. But let's imagine that effort is like that final, that final blossom of the flower. When the flower doesn't come from itself, it doesn't come, nothing comes, effort doesn't come from itself. Effort comes from the desire, from aspiration. So desire and aspiration come from faith, from believing. Good morning, Venerable Anaruda. So effort comes from believing. And it's for this reason, this is why faith is the basis of all realizations. Like the fertile soil on which everything else can be created. Not religious faith that, oh, one needs to believe in that and that's it. No, faith, if I want to put energy in a certain direction, I need to believe in that. And one of the most important things that we need to believe in is what is the best version of ourselves that we want to be. Unfortunately, it's something that we've lost. As a society, I say. I hope I'm wrong. I've never studied Western philosophy, but I was very touched by a phrase that I heard was said by Nietzsche, where he talked about, and this is a documentary that I watched that talked about different Western philosophers. There was a part of the documentary talked about Nietzsche, and he talked about his vision, his view, his life within his lifetime. And at a certain point, the documentary said Nietzsche would say that the man of the future, he called them the last men. This concept that the humans were going to, they're fighting with God, etc. And as a consequence of that, there were also positive consequences, but a negative one was he said that these last men, they would be people that would look to the stars, say how beautiful, but they would never allow themselves to desire them, given that they're so far away. It's just, why should I walk in that direction? They don't allow themselves even to desire because they're too hard to reach. So in light of that, I'll just stay comfortably where I am. In my opinion, it looks like we are there, in the sense that, but why should I put so much effort into something that is not possible to reach in the next 24 hours? Peace. Let's tell the truth here. For there to be peace in a society, let the world aside, but for there to be peace in a society, we need at least 2 generations walking in the right direction. But we say it's too difficult. We'll never get there. So instead of walking in a right, positive direction, where I'm not sure that I'm gonna get there, I'm just gonna stay comfortable on my couch. I try to stay in my little corner, my little world, as comfortable as possible, instead of working hard for something that I don't have any certainty of reaching in a short amount of time. something that Lama Ganchen Rinpoche showed us, that helped us understand many times. He showed us the importance of believing in the impossible. Because believing in the impossible means widening our horizon, going beyond that horizon, the one that we see now. And it's by believing in the impossible, that the impossible becomes possible. Otherwise, we're um, condemned to our small little corner, and we're never able to um, amplify, to widen our horizon. And if I desire something that's possible, then as I'm as if I see something that is if I desire something that is impossible, and as I walk and I go towards something and I see that it actually it is not possible. As I walk the path, I see my horizons open up anyway. This reminds me of a documentary that I saw many, many years ago. At the time I was in Kathmandu, and it talked about an island, and I don't remember the name, that is between Australia and New Zealand, and this was in the 1950s or something. One of the It was one of the greatest mines of iron, enormous iron mines, and the local there was the indigenous local population, and at the beginning they were happy because this mining brought they brought the mining brought resources that they never had, work, etc. And then they realized that the fish were dying, and they saw that it was because of the mining, and they started to rebel against the mining. But nobody listened to them, and they kept doing. I'll just make a long story short. They started to act. Um, they started doing things to block the mining, bringing down trees, etc. They were saying you can't keep polluting our island. You're destroying our home, our place where we're surviving. And so this conflict began between this company, the mining company, and the Australian military arrived. And at the beginning, so after a long conflict, they were able to close the mine, but that wasn't enough for them. What they wanted was autonomy. They wanted to get out. They wanted to become independent from Australia. There was a kind of a total embargo against them, and no medicine, nothing could come to them. And they were already used to Western ways at that point. And it was beautiful what they were able to do, even though it was very hard. I mean, there was malaria, and a man had, and he remembered the ancient healing methods. And these people who were dying one after the other because of malaria, and there was no medicine, Western medicine coming in, because they wanted their autonomy, they wanted their freedom. So this man, he was able to take this ancient tradition, something very strange, I remember. It was a kind of diagnosis. It was like a mix of herbs put in a glass bottle, and this healer doctor, and where the bottle didn't run over the skin smoothly, then that's where there was a problem, and he was able to cure the malaria. And in these 10, 15 years, I mean, many people died, but in these 10, 15 years, they were able to to cure the malaria. They didn't have any more fuel. And then they were able to transform coconut oil into fuel. At a certain point, Australia said, let's, Australia said, we'll take away the embargo. And they said, well, we don't care much because we're autonomous. We're self-sufficient. And then after many, many years, they were able to obtain what they wanted. At a certain point, in the middle of all this, they sent missionaries to try to convert them so that they could become good Christians under the government. And they became exceptional believers, and they put all that energy into their battle for autonomy. So what I saw was these people, they believed in the impossible. And that image of something that seemed impossible, but that someone believed in strongly, that allowed them to have the constancy, that allowed them to put the energy and allowed them to walk, even though it was difficult, in a certain direction. And that's why I asked myself, and I ask you, what's our dream? What's our cause? What's the objective that we have in front of us? In addition to having a comfortable life that seems quite banal as an objective, because a comfortable life, we have a comfortable life, but who has to pay for that? I mean, the comfortable life that we have, can our planet sustain this comfortable life of ours? Can it sustain the level or the lifestyle that we have, and the number, just the sheer number of population? No, not even far. I mean, this is a crazy utopia that we have generated. So I ask myself, what is it that we want? And here's a fundamental point that I wanted to bring today, and I'll dedicate the last minutes to this. Once we desire something, this desire brings naturally this. Once we believe, this faith brings us to desire, and this desire brings us to effort. But this is something that needs to be kept alive. It's like when you're able to make a nice fire. If you don't take care of that fire, it burns out. We need to keep the fire alive. Buddha taught 7 activities to do daily to maintain, to keep us on the path. And these activities are fundamental. Not just as a prayer, but as a daily practice in our lives. The first one is making praise. Those who guide us, those who teach us, praise those who help us, and those who are with us, praising others. And this is an antidote to our arrogance. Making prostrations or praising. We praise the people that we work with, that we're walking side by side with, because it's not so simple, it's not so obvious. But arrogance blinds us. Arrogance takes away our clarity and our ability to see beyond our perspective. So the first antidote to arrogance is praising others, recognizing qualities of body, speech, and mind of others, praising others. And this already, imagine how beautiful that it would be. We come into contact with someone, instead of looking for defects in that person, we come into contact with that person, and the first thing we do is we look for qualities. We praise that person. This reminds me of Lama Rinpoche when he was asked why he had so many friends. This was a journalist once who asked him this, and he answered, I have so many friends because I relate to their qualities and not to their defects. What I see is that when we come into contact with someone, we look more for defects instead of their qualities. Or am I wrong? We're ready to criticize, ready to see what's not going well in every person, in every place. It's exhausting. So praise, give value to the positive aspects to others, positive aspects of others. The second thing is sharing, offering. This act of offering something to someone moves something within. It moves this basis of love, of giving value to others. And we get out of this situation where we're completely closed in on the I and the my, but when I see someone else, I take stock of his existence and I offer something to him or her. The third point, rejoice. The third point is openly admitting one's errors. Openly admitting one's errors is the basis to maintain a certain level of morality. Morality is our ability to abandon what's harmful and cultivate what is beneficial, and to keep our commitments. It's normal, it's inevitable that along the way we will make mistakes and we will run off the road a little bit, that we won't follow everything the way it was proposed to us. It's inevitable that this happens. So we shouldn't have the burden of that we put on ourselves of being perfect. What's important is that every day we see where we've gone astray, and we put ourselves back on the road. Okay, this is not going in the right direction. It's better if I get back on the road, get back on my path in relation to the objective that we have set, what we desire. The fourth point that is very, very important is, if I'm walking in a certain direction, I need to celebrate. I need to celebrate that direction and the steps I'm able to take. This aspect of celebrating our victories, celebrating the beautiful things is so important, because it's that what allows us to maintain that effort and to keep walking. Because otherwise, we're trapped into seeing the objectives very far and seeing what is not going well. Instead, when we rejoice, first of all, it's something that is very far from our reality. Sorry if I say it like this, but I see that it seems very difficult for people to rejoice. But maybe instead of saying rejoice, let's use the word celebrate. When we say, oh, how wonderful that this happened, or we've been able to do this. Being able to do that is very important. I've seen people, like these self-healing experts. An important step in self-help, in this process of personal growth, etc. They say that one needs to be able to celebrate small steps, writing it down somewhere, or now let's 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 have a dinner dedicated to, I don't know, I was able um to not get angry for something, or to get angry less. But it's really important to celebrate, to rejoice for the steps we take, because we have this tendency of generalizing things. And so we're when it's a beautiful moment, we generalize that everything is wonderful. And when we're suffering, we generalize saying that everything is bad. And it's never all perfect and all negative. So rejoicing is very, very important. Very important. Because if we're only criticizing the mind the mind that is the complaining mind, where nothing's going right, and that's what can happen. Instead, it's important to celebrate and recognize and give value um, to positive steps that we take. And unfortunately, it's not spontaneous. We need a level of formality to do it. Kind of effort. We need to put effort into it. That's why Buddha defined this seven limb prayer. These seven things that we need to do every day is making praise, make offerings, acknowledging um, our um, our mistakes, rejoicing for our virtues, the positive things, ours and others, and then have clarity, have clarity of what we want. Tr- Traditionally, the fifth point is to ask for to to ask for teachings from our guru, because these prayers were towards our spiritual master. Instead, if I'm doing these activities in relation to he or she who cooks for me, then I I recognize the qualities and I praise that person. I share something. I make offerings. Etc. etc. And at this point, the fifth point, I would say, please cook for me. Take care of my health, etc. So in this fifth point, we need to be very clear about what this exchange is, because human relationships are made up of exchange. There's always a giving and a taking, and having clarity here means a lot and adds a lot. So this objective, if I look at this objective, what are my expectations? What am I hoping to receive? And that sixth point is, and this is what I want. How long do I want it? A month, 2 months, or until I'm autonomous? No, please cook for me until I learn to cook for myself. How long do I want this? One sets an objective, one looks towards the future. And the seventh point that is extremely important, even if it's lived as a kind of ceremonial formality, it's about dedicating. Dedicating means, but this thing that I'm doing, for example, I'm eating what you cooked for me. What do I dedicate? What do I dedicate it to? Is it an end in and of itself, or is it a tool for something else? May I nourish my body well, and with the energy that I receive through this nourishment, may I be of service to everyone I encounter. I dedicate that food that I'm eating, for example. But that dedication means, like, why are we doing this? What's its function? Is it an end in and of itself? Or is it already an objective that has that has been reached, or is it a tool for reaching something else? This is the importance of dedicating. Do you follow? So, what's the purpose of these 7 limbs? Among many things, they help us maintain. They keep us awake. They keep us upright. They keep alive our constancy and our enthusiastic effort. Because when I praise something, that nourishes the objective that I've set, and when I see how important it is for me, for myself, I recognize my mistake and I set myself straight again. I, I gain effort and strength from rejoicing for positive things. I, I, I clarify my expectations. Why am I here? Why am I going in that direction? And if you don't do them frequently, after a while, we just lose them. And within this, there's a part that's called, it's explained in 2 contexts. It's armor-like effort. They talk about patience, similar to like armor-like patience. For example, if a soldier leaves for battle, does he just wear the, does a warrior, a soldier, wear the armor? Why? So he's more beautiful, she's more beautiful with the armor? No, he puts it, or she puts it because he knows he's going to take blows. He knows that he will take many blows, strong blows. So he prepares himself, because if the soldier leaves and thinks that he'll never be hit, the first one that does touch him, he'll run away. No, one prepares himself first. That's why effort or patience, in two different contexts, it's said that it's similar, it's armor-like. When I leave for my battle, I'm ready. I know that it's not going to be easy. I know that it'll be tiresome, it'll be difficult, and one prepares for the worst. Not in the sense, it's impossible to do. No, come what may, I will have the effort, I will have the strength to get there. And what does that do? That one imagines the worst, then the difficulties that one might actually encounter are lessened. Instead, if you leave for your objective, your path, your battle, thinking that everything will be perfect, the first negativity seems like a mountain that is unsurmountable. But this objective that's in front of me is so important that the difficulties or the fatigue that I find reaching that means nothing respect compared to how important that objective is. If I don't really believe in it, in the objective, but I go in that direction anyway. As soon as that path it becomes uncomfortable, if I don't really believe in my objective, the first thing I'll do is abandon it, right? Because when there's a lot of faith, a lot of desire for something deep, even physical effort means nothing. The first time I realized this. I was a child, maybe 9, 10 years old, 10 at the most. And I was with my cousin near his house, a little bit far from the city of Sao Paulo. And nearby, there was a plot of land which at the time was open. They were going to build something there, but we would play there until late. And at one day we were playing. It was late, and we were flying a kite, and we didn't want to. We were too lazy to pull it down, and we wanted to leave. And so these plots of lands, they were closed actually, and we were closed in this plot of land, and there were about 15 dogs, wild dogs. They came towards us, and we were very afraid. Um, and we didn't know what to do. And I picked up a stone that I saw in front of me, and I threw it in front of me, and it made a large thud, and the dogs ran away. Um, the day after, we went to that same place to play, and I saw that stone. I said, "Oh, you remember yesterday how I picked up that stone? I wasn't able to pick it up beyond my knees. And the day before, I pulled it up to my chest and I threw it far." And I asked myself, how is it possible? Is it heavier than yesterday? What's was was what's the difference? The stone was heavier, or I didn't have any more fear, because that fear gave me so much adrenaline that I was able to throw that stone. And the same thing happens with those strong emotions of passion and so fear, jealousy, etc. So one needs passion to move that level of energy within. And we need to keep alive and cultivate our objective daily. But of course, we need to remember that our objective needs to be virtuous. That is not only external, but internal. And within that path, because it's an inner virtuous path, that the means never justify the end. Because if my objective is to reach if my objective is to reach peace, reach inner peace so that there can be outer peace, then violence is never admissible. Because without inner peace, then outer peace will never be reached, never. But I invite you really to see what our objectives are and what our daily activities that go in that direction, what our daily actions that support that objective, and cultivate those small steps that rejoice for enthusiastic effort. And that gradually really makes a difference. Gradually get out of our comfort zone and overcome difficult moments. These are things that create change within ourselves. I remember words of a master who said, if you're in your comfort zone, you're not actually practicing well. And I think you need to, step in, step out, because sometimes it's okay to stay a little bit in our comfort zone, but we need also to get out of this comfort zone to be able to use our effort and enlarge this comfort zone. So to conclude, enthusiastic effort is fundamental. It should be protected and cultivated through the 7 limbs. And to have effort, we need desire, aspiration, and to have desire, aspiration, we need faith. And if we don't have that effort, we need to cultivate desire, aspiration, and if we don't have the desire, aspiration, we need to cultivate faith. And how can we generate faith? Through advertising, and in the good sense of the word. We see again, come into contact with the idea of, so that we're able to believe in it, so that we can desire it. Because we're only able to desire something we're able to imagine. We can't have faith in something that we are not able to imagine. And to imagine something, we need to come into contact with that thing. Okay? And let's remember that life goes by quickly, and we don't have time to get lost with the small things related to our comfortable daily survival, and where we're looking at little problems here and there. It's time for our dedications.
Jetsun lame kutse rapten chin namkara trinle chokchur gepa da losan tempe dreme sasumgi drove munsela taktu ne gyur chi kewa kuntu yanda lama da drame chiki pela longche chin sada lamge yunte rabzo ne Dorje change kopa nyurtop nimodele tsendele nime koyan delekshin nintsen takto delekpe kuncho sumke chingilo kuncho sumke ngodrubutsol kuncho sumke tashisho
At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Trishidile. Have a good day, everyone.